Welcome to the CQC video training series. This is a spot topic video on template states. In this video, we're going to be looking at template states. And template states allow you to hide or disable widgets based on the state of fields. And this is very important because, as in any sort of program that you would write, and essentially user interfaces that you create with CQC can be small applications, you want to not allow the user to do things at times when it would not be valid for them to do it. Having them have to themselves remember not to do these things is just asking for trouble. So the way that this is usually done is that you disable or you hide those interactive widgets or controls in a regular program that you don't want the user to be able to interact with at particular times. And of course, in CQC, you would do that by looking at fields and deciding, is this device in this particular state? And if so, maybe we shouldn't allow the user to interact with it in these particular ways. Now, if you try to just manually sense that this or that state has changed and send individual commands to widgets to hide or disable them and so forth, that would get very tedious and very easily broken. So basically, each template can have one or more named states associated with it, and those states can be associated with widgets, and widgets can hide or disable themselves based on the result of those particular states. So let's just demonstrate that. It's probably easier to see than to understand. I've set up a small template here just for testing to save us time. And it just has a couple of buttons to arm and disarm the security system. And our scenario here is that when the security system is armed, we don't want this target button to be available to the user. So let's just take a quick look at that. And I've already got it loaded here. So if we arm, it goes to away, and if we disarm, it goes to off. So it's just showing us the arming modes. So let's set up a template state that will be true when the system is armed, or the security system is armed. And then we'll set up this target button to hide itself when that state is true. So let's right click on the template itself and select define states. And we need to add one. You can have multiples here, of course. In our case, we're only going to do one, but we'll just call it security armed. And now let's edit that. And now what we can do is add a set of expressions. And those expressions are evaluated and combined. And they're combined using the trueIf value here. In our case, we're only going to have one, so it kind of doesn't really matter in a way. But so let's go ahead and add an expression. And since we're only going to do one, and it really is just saying the same thing, we're just going to also call it security armed. And let's select the arm state field or arm mode. So go to the security driver. And in this case, I'm arming and disarming the house area. So we want the house arm mode. And in this case, it is a comparison, not a Boolean. So instead of is true, we want to say is equal. And we want to compare it to, in our case, we don't want to have to compare it to every possible armed state. So what we want to do is set it to the disarm state, and then we'll negate the result of that so that it actually returns the opposite. And then what we need to do is to set the negated value here to true. And what that will do is cause it to actually return the opposite of what it actually evaluates to. So if the system is armed, it will return false, but then we're going to negate it to make it return true. And this is actually a bug here. You're supposed to be able to edit this in the usual sort of way where you can left right button or select the drop down menu. So this will be fixed by the time you see this. So I'll just have to set it manually here. I'll set it to true. All right, so now let's save that and we'll save the changes. And now let's go try, oh, sorry, we need to associate the target widget with the state. So we have an associated states option here. And if we click that, we can double click any states that we want to associate this particular widget with. In this case, of course, we only have one. And once we do that, these other options down here become available. We could have negated it here. And this is also allows us to do a combination of the results of any states we're associated with. So just like we did a layer down, so this can get kind of tricky sometimes, but it allows for a lot of complexity. And if true, what we want to do is just set it to hidden. we could set it to disabled, but in that case it won't actually, because we haven't done anything to make this button look any different when it's disabled. We just want to show hidden so we can be sure that it's actually working. So let's save those changes, go back to the viewer and reload. And now if we arm, the button goes away, and if we disarm, it comes back. And you can see that it happens fairly quickly. So this is a very useful way, as I said, to make your user interfaces more self-protecting, so that you don't have to count on the user not to do anything at the wrong time. You can make sure they can't do anything at the wrong time. And that's an important thing in order to create a really solid solution. So that's it, and we'll see you in the next video.